Madam, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Selvan.
Good afternoon.
Nice to have you with us.
Uh, Thanks
Good
for
afternoon,
inviting me.
Selvan.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Se-
Good afternoon,
Good
Shrikala.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hi, Selvan.
Hi.
So, are you back to Chennai or still in Hyderabad?
I came back.
Oh, you came back. That's good.
I came back, went again for 2 days. Again, I came back.
Okay. We'll just wait for by 4-5 and we'll start in a couple of minutes.
Okay, as you wish, as you say.
Yeah, another 2-3 minutes we can wait.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Great. So, if we can stop that for a minute because students have some, first couple of slides of the yesterday's winner and that, and then they will
Acha.
start.
No problem.
Yeah.
Ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, I think we can. So that we
Okay.
can finish on time. So yeah, everybody must be having some things at home today. Start and finish at time. Is it okay, Madhura ma'am?
Yeah, totally.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are Chaitanya.
Okay. So welcome to the day 6 of the Color Week. Today's speaker is Mr. K. Panthala Selvan, and the topic is dot gain versus G7. Before moving forward, I would like to announce the winners of the yesterday's quiz. The first one is Sharan Hange from BE Printing. Second one is Kaustubh Dangwal from BE Printing. Third one is Ganesh Shelke from DE Printing. Fourth, Shom Narkare from BE Printing. And fifth, Shubhangi Chauhan from DE Printing. So congratulations to all the winners. Let's move on. I would like to invite Ria Balade for introducing to sir.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. K. Panthala Selvan Sir is Managing Director at Idea Alliance South Asia since 2018. He completed his diploma in 1999 from Arasan Ganesan Polytechnic College, Sivakasi, and then completed his BE in Printing Engineering in the year 2003 from PVG COET Pune. He started Pressman Solutions from the year 2009 in Chennai. With corporate office in Chennai, they have support centers in other parts of India covering the entire nation. They also have overseas support centers in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Mr. Selvan is OGRA certified expert and proprietor of Pressman Solutions. He has many Pressman consultancies helping printers to make an SOP, QC process, ink matching systems, press calibrations, prepress calibrations, proofer calibrations, etc. Mr. Selvan has worked with a couple of companies. His last assignment was with Kodiak for taking care of CPT. The company pre-audits for major technical certifications. He deals with Bodoni systems, CGS color management for proofing and digital printing, GTI D50 lighting systems, NIP control, etc. He also conducts G7 expert training and helps printers achieve G7 master status. I welcome you, sir. Over to Chaitanya.
Um, Now I would like to invite our today's speaker, Selvan sir, for sharing their presentation.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
friends, for this kind introduction. So today I'm the last speaker of your Color Week,
Yes.
and I hope I'm not going to bore you with the same topics what other speakers had covered. I don't know if all students are bored after hearing a 5 day of color, color, color. So since it is a color week, I'm also going to talk about the color. And today's session, what the session, what I'm going to talk today is a very, very small topic. But I tried my level best to describe as easy as possible. I mean, I tried. I am not sure if it is really worked out well or not. You have to tell. Today, what I am going to talk here is there are two ways of achieving gray balance. So one is through a regular dot gain calibration, and other is measuring the gray and correcting and getting the gray balance through a G7 methodology. And which system uh, wins the process? So that's what we are going to do, a little like a little analysis of understanding of both the process, how it works. First, we need to understand what is print quality. Print quality means when you see from the designer's perspective, whatever he has designed, that has to come onto the paper. Whatever he has designed, that has to come to the paper. And his definition for a print quality is the color and the tone. Those are the two basic things that any designers expect from the print. So every persons who are working in the entire chain of this color reproduction should understand the difference or the terms how the color is achieved and how the tone is achieved. So let's first start with the color, then we will understand the tone, and then we'll understand the gray balance. ISO has recommended the standard feedings, or we call as densities, the standard density. I mean, ISO doesn't recommend densities, they define in LAB values. But just for our understanding, we will say that every color CMYK on a specific paper, there is a standard color that we need to achieve at a specific quantity of ink, that is at a specific density. How do they arrive that? For example, you have a paper on which you are depositing some quantity of ink for a say 0.80 density, where you get little color of the magenta, and we are talking about the magenta color here, for example. Okay, when I increase the density from zero point 0.8 to 1.10, the color comes out further, more color comes. When you increase the density further, the color of the ink comes out well. Like this, when you're depositing different quantity of inks on the paper, at certain point, the color of magenta will stop coming out. So this is the different density we are depositing on the paper, and this is the color, how much color we get. So in terms of LAB values, I can say the different density we can define as the L value, and the color which is coming out, I can call as the A and B value, the color and tone of the ink. At one point, the color of the ink stops coming. It doesn't come out further. It stops. Further deposit of ink will not bring you more magenta, more vibrant magenta, but it will just make dirtier because of excess deposit of ink. But the color stops. So ISO has tested this for CMYK ink for different papers, and they have defined the optimum density at which the color stops. So what is the L value of that, the density, and what is the A and B, the color of the ink? And they have defined this A and B, this L, A and B as a standard or optimum color achievable on a specific paper. So ISO has classified 7 varieties of paper, right from high bright paper till newspaper. The newspaper is the most dirtiest paper, and art paper or the high bright paper is the most whitest paper or brightest paper. So this is how the standard values are defined. Now, when you're depositing the ink more, as you see, the dot size, because it is just not the solids, it also has the dots. So what will happen to the dots? At the same time, when you're depositing, increasing the deposit, that is the density of the ink on the paper, the dot size will also keep changing. The size will increase. It means a printer has to be very cautious if he is going to deposit even 5% more ink can react on the dot size. So this parameter, I want everybody to remember it. Now let's take only this portion. This is the portion which is not acceptable. So let's take this acceptable range and we will discuss further on this. Sorry. Now I have taken different densities here. For example, 1.40 is the point where the A and B stops. Okay, that is optimum density. And we have 1.50, 1.60. At 1.70 and 1.80, the color doesn't come out, but it starts looking darker because of the excess density, or it may slightly affect the A and B value because it can go slightly dirty. It will affect the delta error. Okay. Now, let us assume this 1.70 and above 1.170, we are not going to get any color because it is completely out, because it is again shifting the color of the magenta. So what we are going to do, we will remove this portion and we will just analyze only this 3 portion where you have the A and B within the range. So this portion is what acceptable, and this portion, the color is getting more darker and getting dirty and the color is going out. So let us take this portion first, because these questions are not acceptable. Okay, this is 1.40, 1.50, and 1.60. This is the density range at which your A and B is within the delta error. It means all these three ranges absolutely okay for us. Okay, now if you see in this portion, the A and B is fine, but the L value is shifting for the 1.60. So we can take this, could be an ideal range for us. That is from 1.40 to 1.50. Now we are again microscopic level. We are checking the range between 1.40 to 1.50, where you can see we are taking the middle value 1.45 as a standard, and the minimum we can have is 1.40, and maximum we can have is 1.50. So when you have a delta error, when you say 3.5, for example, for magenta, it can be 3.5 delta error lighter or 3.5 delta error darker. In that case, if I take this as a standard, it can be 3.5 delta error lighter, or it can be 3.5 delta error darker. Okay, so this is how the standard L, A, and B values are defined for CMYK inks. So this is what I was trying to tell you. This is the ISO says this could be the standard LAB value of that ink, and it can go darker, or it can go lighter, or it can go darker by 3.5 delta error. So this is the optimum range of CMYK ink for a specific paper to achieve the color of the image. Whatever image you're going to print, you need to achieve the color. If you're going to print an image of an apple, the red color should get achieved on the paper. Red color or white, maroon, or whatever it is. They have it on the design. So this is how the LAB values for the CMYK is defined on a specific paper. Okay, so see, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and paper. Every ISO standard starts from the paper color. The previous speakers must have covered about this. Yes, the color management starts from paper color, and it starts from the printing machine. I do not want to repeat all that, whatever you heard this week. So on specific paper, what is the optimum CMYK? L value is the density, and A and B are the color, optimum color that achievable at that specific density, and overprint colors. This cyan, magenta, yellow, black with paper, on paper, specific paper, and the RGB. This 7 colors decides, or I can say 8 colors. This 8 colors decides the color of an image. When I say print quality, whatever the color and the tone of the design has to come to the paper. So if you want to have that optimum color onto the paper, you should ensure that you hit the right L and A and B value, the right L, that is the optimum density, and the color and tone of that specific inks. This way, you will be able to achieve the ink. Now, assume this is the optimum magenta LAB value we achieved. Similar exercise you can do for cyan, magenta, and yellow like this. So you are able to get cyan here, optimum cyan, optimum magenta, optimum yellow. This defines the maximum cyan, magenta, yellow achievable on a specific paper. And in that combination, your red, your green, and your blue. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, I can show you like this. This 6 colors defines the gamut of a specific paper, the total number of colors achievable on a specific paper. Okay, this way you have to achieve this to make sure that you achieved the color of that specific design. Like this, they have experimented for different paper varieties, right from the most brightest paper till newspaper. They have defined the optimum cyan, magenta, yellow, red, green, and blue to define the gamut. The paper white and the black ink totally defines you the three-dimensional color space for each paper. So next is the tone. So I told you first you have to achieve the color. That is, you have to hit the right density, because even a fluctuation in density will affect your dots. So first your process is to hit the right density in terms of LAB values. And next we talk about the tones. What is tones? The dots. Okay, so how are we defining the different tones in an image? By defining a different dot shape or a size or quantity of dots. Through this, we define the image tones. Okay, so for example, if a person wears a white shirt, where they use a very small size dots, and a person's hair, which is black color, where they use the big size dots. Okay, right? So by aligning the size of the dots, we are able to achieve the different tones in the printing. So now when you have the lesser density, the dot size will be less, whereas when you're going to increase the density, the dot size will also change according to the density. You can see the difference, how much difference with the, or for example, this is the minimum delta, this is the maximum delta error. When you're running with the minimum delta error, that is within the range. It means the within the range, this could be a dot size. When you're increasing the density, that also within the range of delta error, the dot size increases. That means the printer has to be very, very cautious before decreasing or increasing the ink, because it is not just the color. Color is already achieved. So whether by going to the minimum point or maximum point, the color will not be compromised, but the tones will be compromised. So the printer should be really, really careful while working on the ink film thickness, that is working on the ink fadings. And this dot gain measurement is again is nothing but, it is not a colorimetric measurement. You are not measuring the color of a dot. You are measuring the size of the dot, right? When you're measuring a specific person, and it is a measurement of a densitometric value. It doesn't talk about the color, the dot gain that we measure. Now, this is a beautiful point that I should like to highlight here. Now, while measuring a dot gain in your densitometer or spectrodensitometer, how do you measure a dot gain? When you want to measure the percentage at a maybe at a 25%. First, you have to measure the paper color. So instrument detects the maximum light reflected from paper. So it will assume this is the white. Then you have to measure the solid. And then the instrument decides, okay, this is the solid. Now, when you're measuring the screen, the percentage, for example, if whatever ink, when you're measuring this black, 100%, this is 100%. When you measure this and you measure as 25%, it calculates and tells you the screen percentage at this point. Now, instead of when I'm giving a solid reference this point, in case if I give the 75% box as my 100%, and if I measure the same 25% screen, I will get a different percentage. That means whatever you have in that box is relative to the solid color. Or I'll give you an example. Now, let us assume this is a black color, which is a density you printed at 1.5 or 1.7. Okay, it's a high density. Now, when I'm going to take this 1.7 solid reference, I'm going to give this is my solid 1.75 density. And when I measure my 25% scale, it will tell it is printed as 35% or 37%. It may talk about 12% dot gain. It is having in that box. Okay, so 25 it is measuring as 35, for example. Instead of this, in case if instead of giving this 1.75, if my ink density is like this, maybe around 1.2, okay, the lesser density, another sheet, black, lesser density. If I measure this black and then measure the same 25% screen, this time it will not give a 35% dot. It may give 30 or it may give 25 or it may be less than 25 because my solid is lighter now. Automatically, when the density is going down, your screen measurement will also go down. So now here, the 25% screen, whatever you printed is misguiding you because it is not giving you the actual value. So this is the reason why dot gain measurements, which is a densitometric based, doesn't give you an actual value of that specific screen. The whatever screen you measure, it is all relative to your solid densities. The same thing I'm explaining here. For example, I have a density of 1.50 for magenta. Okay, I have taken the reference of this solid 1.50. When I measure a 30% screen, it may tell it is a 50% after dot gain. Now I'm measuring in, I have another sheet where my density is 1.45, which I'm taking that as a reference as solid. If I measure the same 30%, it will give a different, for example, uh, now what you got 30%, you got 50%. In the next sheet, when the ink density is moving, your 35% will talk us, say as it is 50%. And if my density is gone down further, now your 40% will say it is 50%. So whatever screen you're measuring, it is all relative to your solid measurements. Now ISO has defined the different dot curves also, like I have kept it here. Like you have different gamut for different paper. Dot gain also there is a standard for different papers. Like for like curve A. Curve A means they talk about, for example, I will talk about 50%. They're giving about around 16% dot gain is acceptable. If I go for curve B, they're talking about 19%. It means every curve, they're giving additional 2% or 3% more dot gain is allowed. Why? Sometime we are running on a very old machine where you don't have a strict process control. Sometime you're running on a very low quality paper. Sometime you're running on unstable conditions where having a tighter tolerance would be difficult. But every machine should be calibrated to some specification, so at least the printer can print consistently. So it is very, very important that the printer can choose a specification which he can follow, because besides quality, consistency is also important. So in case if his machine is not capable of giving a tighter tolerances, he can work on a little higher dot gain tolerances where at least he is able to print the images. So this curve is applicable for newspaper where they work for 26% dot gain, whereas the curve A is applicable for any coated substrate where they work for a 16% dot gain. So this is for the newspaper where they talk about, they also have a standard for 28% in newspapers, but ideally they work on 26%. But there is an also option for 28%. And you see there is a tolerance of 10% for newspaper because the dots expands very faster in newsprint. So these are the different dot gain curves. Like you have 15%, 19% till 28% or the 26% scale. Okay. So printers can choose according to the paper and press condition, and they can calibrate the machine and follow one common specifications. Now, this tolerance is what we need to understand. 4% plus minus 4%. Now, what they say when I print at 50%, they say, for example, we need 65%, that is 66%. The 15-16% dot gain is required on the paper. And it is not possible to exactly match at the 66%. So when the density is slightly going to 1.40 or 1.50, automatically when it goes to 1.40, the curve will go down. And when it goes to 1.50, the curve will go up. I told you the dot gain or the dot size will have, is directly dependent on the ink film thickness, the density, L value. Because in the machine, the density keeps moving up and down, moving up and down. So during this process, the dots will also change. Okay, so they're giving a tolerance of plus minus 4%. That is, the 65, for example, can go down to 61, or it can go up to 69%. So see the tolerance. So you can work onto the upper scale or minimum scale, but it has to be within the range. Okay, so this is how they need to have the winning range. But ideally, you have usually how we have is for cyan, magenta, yellow, we have curve A, and for black we keep curve B in certain scenarios. So for example, you have CMY in 16% dot gain, and black we have kept at 67 or 68% dot gain with a difference of 2 percentages. Now while calibration, you can see here, sometimes you get a dot gain like this, and sometimes you get a dot loss depending on the press conditions. Mostly it's dot gain, but certain abnormal conditions we also get dot loss. So what happens because of this 4% plus minus, this tolerance, huge tolerance, Even though here, if you see that all the four colors dots printed at a specific scale, even though they are within the scale, within the range, acceptable range, still your gray is out because the tolerance given for 65%, they are giving minimum 61 is okay, maximum 69 is okay. In this scenario, you see the magenta is printing at 65 and cyan is printing at higher scale. You can see the cyan up. It has gone to maximum scale, that is 6970. So since the cyan is more, the gray has moved to grayish, bluish tone. And in case if yellow is also high, automatically this gray will become greenish tone because of cyan and yellow. You can see this is the ideal gray balance that we need to achieve. But unfortunately, even though the dot gains are within the range of that 4%, still your gray is out. And as per ISO, this is actually not acceptable because we are talking on a very lesser gray balance. But for a printer to manage this gray, to achieve this gray within this tolerance, with this 4% tolerance will be very, very difficult. You can see here. This is the range you need all the four colors. But here magenta is on the top scale, all the four colors are out. And because of that, all this gray goes outside. So like I mentioned before, TVA, this dot gain parameters, is a densitometric value. And this gray can also get affected by other reasons like trapping or a pH or ink opacity or ink color. There are so many factors which affects the gray balance. Now, why this gray balance is important? And it is now this gray balance is directly dependent on your dot gains. Like your dots are directly dependent on the feeding, and the gray balance is dependent on your dots. Now, when you're calibrating on this dot gain base, for example, we have three different processes where I use a dot gain methodology to calibrate. Now, all these three sheets you see here are within the range of ISO of your dot gain range, but the gray that you got is not correct. Okay. Now, why do you define the gray? Where whatever print you, for example, you want to see the accurate color of an image, it has to be viewed under a white light. If you view that print under a blue light, the print will have a blue color cast. If you view that image under a red light, it will have a red color cast. So it is very, very important that to have a right color judgment, when you see an image, the image has to be viewed under white light. So white light will avoid any excess color cast because of the lights. Similarly, when you print, the print itself should not have a color cast. Now, if the gray is more bluish, that means the entire print is bluish. That means it has a blue color cast. If your gray has a color cast, that means your image also has a color cast. So the images that you print should be free of color cast, which the traditional dot gain based calibration do not guarantee you because of this more tolerances. And printing the setting up the dots within the range, within the tolerance would be really, really difficult. So now what we are trying to do here is we kept the LAB values. I mean, we defined the optimum ink feeding and optimum color value of the ink, and then we measured the dot size and we balanced it for all the four colors, and we tried to bring the neutral gray. But now we don't get a neutral gray because of the tolerances that we have in the curves. So what we are doing, we are trying to measure the dot and bring a gray balance. If this gray is balanced, your image is balanced. If the gray is not balanced, your image is not balanced. If your image is not balanced, that means whatever data you have in the design has not come to the paper. It means you have not achieved the print quality. Okay. So they came with a new process where instead of, see, end of the day, what we need is gray balance. So if you want a gray balance, why do you have to measure the dot? and define a curve, for example, 15% or 20% or 26%, and there is no specific logic, why you need that? Why not 10%? Why not 25%? So why define? Because we want to bring all the dots in a specific scale. That's why we define a curve, right? So this specific curve doesn't match exactly, and you don't get the standard gray values. So since we aim to get the gray balance, instead of measuring the dot and getting the gray, why not measure the gray directly and get the gray corrected? Our aim is the gray should be free from color cast. So the other methodologies we have in the G7 methodology, gray balance based calibration methodology, where we have only two scale. We have incorporated all these four scales into two scales. For black, we have retained the black scale. And for the other scale, we have all the three colors integrated in together as one scale. You have cyan, magenta, yellow scale here, and you have the black color scale here. Okay. So there are two parameters for here. Probably I may have to show you. Can you confirm if you can see the software that I'm showing here? Because I've changed.
No, we are just seeing the slide only.
Okay, I don't know how to change it. Let me see.
No, you have to go back to the meeting and then share your entire screen, and then we'll be able to see that.
Actually, I'm using two OS. I'm using Mac OS and PC.
Okay,
Let
okay.
Let me see.
Yeah, now we can see your screen.
Can you see the software now?
No, just the blue screen of Windows we see.
Oh, then I think it is not moving to the other screen. Okay, let me stop and again I'll reshare it.
Yeah.
I think it will not work out.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't have option of moving to that screen.
Right.
No problem. I'll show with whatever I have.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, it is coming up.
Okay. All right. Fine. So I thought I wanted to show you from software which we measured actually. Very unfortunate. Yeah. That's okay. No problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine. So what we do is we measure. We have two in when you want to measure a gray. Our aim is from 0 to 100%. Both the scale should look smooth. It should from 0 to 100%. The scale should go smooth. Okay. It should not break. That means the density from 0, that is 1% to 100%, the density at different point has to go very smooth. So there are two parameters we measure here. One is the tonality to check from 0 to 100%, the tone, it has to go smooth. It should not increase or decrease. At the same time, the color of the gray. Both are important. So we check two parameters, that is tonality and gray balance. The density of the gray and color of the gray. L value of the gray, AB of the gray. Okay. So when I say L value of the gray, now there is no A and B for the black. It is only L value. Black doesn't have a color, right? Technically, black ink doesn't have a color. So it is only the L value of the black. But for the three color gray, you have to check the L value as well as A and B value. So you have to measure, I mean, whatever you measure, you get three parameters. One is L of the density of L value of black scale and L value of CMYK, and then color of the three color gray. So you have to achieve the tonality for both the scale and gray balance for the CMY scale. If you're able to achieve this, you will get the right values. So these are the two parameters. One is the tonality and the color of the gray. Okay. The gray should not go bluish or greenish. It has to be free from color cast. In that way, you're able to achieve the G7 based gray balance. So what is the advantage of G7 based calibration that we do? Here is in whatever process you print and whatever substrate you use, it doesn't matter. As long as the gray is balanced, the color is balanced. As long as the print doesn't have a color cast, whatever color you have in the design has come to the substrate. And that is why this calibration methodology, actually this calibration is little difficult. It's not easy like Dotkin. It's really difficult, but it assures you the right colors onto the substrate. Now I have.
Selvan, can you put it in a slideshow mode so that the entire screen will be visible?
So you can't see the screen now?
No, we can see, but if you put it in a, yeah, there.
Okay. Oh.
Thanks.
So when I have two images here, and if we ask somebody which is the right print, some may say the left is fine, some may say it's right is fine. But we don't know how the designer has really designed. If I'm a printer, if I print this job, I have no idea what is the actual color in the design, and I would rightly prefer whatever I feel is better. Just in case we have this gray patches, and if this gray is balanced, now anybody will be able to easily tell which is the right picture. The right has a blue color cast, whereas the left is neutral gray. That means this image has achieved the right color. Whatever data you have in the design has come to the substrate. Okay, so this gray balance, which is based G7 based gray balance, is always for printing. It is neutral, but when you see it, it is always relative to the paper. Okay. For example, you can see this image, and you have another image. Once you remove this entire yellow color cast, automatically the actual color has come outside. So this, how here what we are doing is we are getting the right density of the inks, that is the LAB value of the ink. After that, we are directly measuring the gray and correcting the gray and removing the color cast from. If your print has 3% more magenta color cast, just remove the 3% color cast. Automatically, the actual color has come to the substrate. Okay, so this this color gray balance methodology is always relative to the paper color. Okay, another image, like you have multiple images. If you ask which is the right image, just by seeing the gray balance, we can tell which is the correct image. So usually when we say, even in a newspaper conference where I was talking about this, when I presented this concept for newsprints, there was a big agitation that for they feel where whatever gray balance we achieve, it has to be neutral. That means it has to be colorless, correct? But do you really get it colorless? Do you really see it colorless? Not possible, because the dots which is on a specific paper, when you see a dot, you're also seeing the paper. For example, you see a 50% dot. So it means it has 50% ink and 50% is paper. That means whatever paper color that you have between the dots is going to influence the way you see that color. If your paper is yellowish, the gray will look yellowish. If the paper is bluish, your gray will look bluish, because gray should always, the color will be neutral. But when you see it on a specific paper, it will not look neutral. It will always be relative to the paper color. And that is how it should be. And there is a formula for calculation. I'll not talk more on this formula and confuse you. It's a very simple formula, but there is a formula. Just take in the gray balance, we always have highlight gray balance, middle tone gray balance, and shadow gray balance, which we technically call as highlight contrast, highlight range, and shadow contrast. For example, it's a 25% gray balance point. Measure the A and B value of the paper and multiply with 0.75. For 25, measure with 0.75. So you will get what should be the color of 25% gray balance. If your gray at 25% gray has a A value of 1.5 and -3, that means you have achieved the right color. That is the optimum color that gray should achieve. See, here it is A and B is not 0, 0. So that means we cannot achieve neutral gray. The gray will be relative to the paper. So the B is -3. B -3 means this paper is bluish. So it will have a 3-point bluish content. and it's 50%, just multiply with minus 0.5, just 0.5. Measure the paper A and B value. Paper A is 2, paper B is minus 4, just multiply with 0.5, you get the what should be the A and B value of your 50% gray. I hope I'm not confusing you all. Similarly for the 75%, for 25 you'll multiply with 0.75, and for 75 you'll multiply with 0.25. Just interchange it for remembering. So if you're able to achieve this A and this B at a 75% gray, that means you have achieved the optimum A and B value of the gray. This should be the color of your gray. Gray is never neutral. Okay. And for example, when you're having a gray on a specific bluish paper, it has to be relative to the paper. But whereas the regular ISO, they say the gray has to be neutral, that is to be colorless irrespective of the paper color. That means it doesn't go relative to the paper, which is not correct. And this is an yellowish paper. You can see how the gray is going relative to the substrate. You can see the gray is not going relative to the substrate. It is having a different color feel. This is a bluish paper, this is a regular paper, and this is the yellowish paper. So your gray balances should be always relative to the paper color. Now the problem here is when you see it, you will see the gray looks different paper. That is the only negative thing you have. But if you remove the paper color, all the gray will be neutral. That is A and B will be 0, 0. So tonality, this is a percentage from 0 to 100%. You can see this picture. See the tone here. There is no highlight dot because of certain highlight range is gone. Here, if you see the shadows are filled up because of dot gain. If you see, because of this, the shadows filled up. If you have the smoother tonality, that means you have the actual tone of the image. So for this, we usually we do it with the help of a software, but there is also a graph sheet based calculation for CMY. There is a standard. How the tone of the gray black color? How should be the what should be the density at 2% screen, 5% black, 10%? They're given a density target at 75% black. What should be the density? Similarly, they also given us density standard for the CMY. So we have to measure our printed sheet and compare with the standard given, and we have to do the compensation in the CTP to balance the dot gains. Like usually what we do, we have a target 16% in regular calibration. We need 16% dot gain, but we got a 25% dot gain, so we have to reduce 9%. This is how we do a curves. Here we have a standard curve for tonality for black and CMY. We measured our curve, we cross-checked both, and we are going to create a curve based on this. We will have a wanted values. For the time being, you just take only this point, because if maybe in a half an hour session, it is very difficult to understand all this. But you just try to understand the basic process, how it has been calculated. When you have a gray balance, when you want to test a gray balance, your 25% scale will have a 25% cyan, 19 magenta, 19 yellow. And for 50%, you'll have a 50% black, and for cyan, magenta, yellow, 50, 40, 40. And 75% patch, this 75% patch. This patch will have a 75 cyan, 66 magenta, 66 yellow. Any printer who has a gray balance patch in this, they have to use this percentage. Even if this percentage goes wrong, their evaluation will go wrong. This is the right percentages they should use in the patches. And when you measure gray, the delta error formula used for gray balance is different. It is delta CH. So this is a desired gray, and this is a measured gray, and there's a diagonal way of measuring the gray. And this is, Pythagoras theorem. Now, don't ask me about Pythagoras theorem. I'm not so familiar in mathematics. In fact, I had to write the M3 three times to clear. So don't ask me any doubts in mathematics, but this is the formula which is required for calculating the gray. Remember, the gray balance delta error is delta CH. That is, this is A value of the gray, and this is the B of the gray value. One second. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. There are two methodology I told. One is the G7 and another is the Fogra ISO. In Gracol, they follow the same, both are following ISO standard. But once we get the color, in G7 we measure the gray tonality and gray balance, and in the fogra they get the color and they measure the dot gains and they get the gray, which is not very accurate. Okay, now you can see the images, how the images look on a newsprint on a high bright paper. Based on the paper, the all the whatever gray you achieve, they are always relative to the paper color. It is always relative to the paper color. So if you see the color, all the gray will look entirely different. All the gray will look entirely different because it looks relative to the paper. Now please note here, I'm going to remove the paper color here. I just removed the paper color. You can see this. Here all the gray looks different, and if somebody claims, see, all the grays are looking different, I'm just removing the paper background. Now if you see, all the gray will look neutral, that is A and B will be 0 0, and it will look very similar. This is called neutral print appearance. So this kind of balanced gray for any process on any substrate is not guaranteed with the dot gain based gray balance. This is possible only if you measure the tonality and gray balance of the gray. Now you take a call whether you be able to achieve a good gray balance with a dot gain based or with a G7 based calibration. And we have even we are doing a lot of calibration for different processes, and we also feel that the tonality and gray balance based calibration gives you the balanced gray, which is really good. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Selvan. So students, if you have any questions, you are free to ask. Either you can unmute yourself and or type in a chat window.
I hope I did not confuse you all, huh?
No, I don't think so.
No question means only two reasons: either they understood completely or they did not understand anything.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Sir, just now you told about neutral print appearance.
Hmm.
Sir, actually, I have not understand how it actually works properly.
Okay. Now, if you see this, the last print is printed on a newspaper. Okay. This is printed on an inkjet paper. Maybe this is printed on offset paper. This is printed on a flexo. If you see these images, they all look similar. Here the apple is not looking in maroon color. Here the apple is not looking very reddish color. The color is same. The only difference you see is because the paper is dirty, the image looks little dull. Here it looks vibrant bright because the paper is brighter. But if you see the color, it looks similar. So this is called, we call neutral print appearance. One image printed in any substrate in any process, when you compare side by side, they should look similar. We are not trying to match the colors, but we are trying to bring the colors closer, or we are trying to bring the colors similar. How do you get the similar color? The ad agency is giving the design for an inkjet and for an offset and for a newspaper. And on all this process, what we did is we achieved the CMYK RGB LAB values as per the standard, and we just removed the color cast from the print. Automatically, whatever tone they had in the design has come to the paper, because all we did is we just removed the color cast. The color cast comes because of the process control parameters like dot gains or trap or whatever. So this is what I was trying to mean as a neutral print appearance. Image printed in a newspaper, image printed in an offset paper, maybe on an inkjet or a digital. When they keep it side by side, they should look similar. Did I clarify you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So, Selvan, can we say like one is offset, one is inject, and one is flexo, and one is newsprint? So they like they all have to be calibrated by G7. It's not that one process is calibrated through ISO and then another from G7, and then you can compare and you should get a same color. All the processes should be calibrated through G7, and then only they can be kept side by side to achieve this kind of
Yes.
result. Yeah.
See, every printing device
Yeah.
needs a calibration by default, but nobody does it properly. Either they do it by wrong methodology or they don't do it. But if it is
Yes.
done by the right process with the right specifications, we will be able to achieve the colors. But
Right.
calibration is mandatory.
Right. Right. So if we're talking about color management, like, so if I have a red label pouch, the one is flexible pouch and one is carton and one is maybe gravier or label. So,
Hmm.
but like they all has to be color managed through G7 only, or the ISO standards only, to make sure the color appearance is same on all different product.
See, when you're going to process this image to the ISO profiles, like an ISO
Yeah.
quoted or a foreground profile, those profiles are not gray balanced.
Correct.
I mean, I would say it's gray balance. Definitely, it's gray balance, but it is the gray is not so free of color cast like what you have it in CRPC profiles. The
Right.
CRPC profiles, Gracol profiles, they are all well gray balanced. It means it doesn't have any color cast. So you have to process all these images through the Gracol profiles or CRPC profiles, then take it to print and follow the you should follow the profile on the machine also.
Right. So if I'm at a vendor side or customer side who is giving the jobs out to the printers, I have to make sure that they all follow one standard so that I can get the same color from all the printers.
Exactly. Now
Yeah.
the default profile which is there in all the software is US web coated.
Yes.
And US web coated is again the older version of Gracol profile.
Okay.
But that has to be updated. They have not changed it. They have kept it for ages. They have kept it the same profile. But the printers needs to change it to the latest profiles because the latest profiles are built with new specifications, new
Okay.
conditions. The old profiles are still like Stone Age
Hmm. Hmm.
concepts. So that has to be replaced.
Right. Chaitanya, if you want to read out the question to sir.
So you have
Yes,
made a list of what?
there's a question in the chat box by Saraki. In ECG, what are the desired specifications of SCTV to be achieved for OGV?
Okay. When you are going to print OGV inks, uh, usually there is a specification. What we try to do is we try to keep curve B or curve C for the OGV inks. For CMY, cyan, magenta, yellow, we keep curve A. For black, we keep B. And for OGV also, we try to keep either B or C. If you want to do it very, very precisely, then you have to create a CXF file for all these three colors and maintain the CXF file right from 0 to 100%. The CXF data, it will give you the nanometer reading for 25% orange, 50% orange, 75% orange for 100% orange. So if properly done, we can even create a CXF file for the entire OGV colors and then maintain it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any other doubt from faculty or students? So there's one question from Swati Naha ma'am. What is the
Okay.
exact value? What is the exact value to match gray color?
What is the
What is the exact value to match gray color?
what is the exact value to match gray color means?
So I think
I think
First,
she's
we
he
have
meant with the standard LAB values for gray, and then you have to.
I told what should the color of your gray should have. Okay, first you
Yeah.
have to measure the paper LAB value. Okay, You can also go and do this exercise when you're tomorrow. You can do this exercise. Measure the A and B of your paper. Okay. Now, for a 25% gray, that is 25% box gray, where you have cyan, magenta, yellow. This is the A and B value of your paper, 2 and minus 4. Just multiply this with 0.5. Sorry, this is for 50%. No, 25% is here. Just measure the paper A value and B value with 0.75. So you will get an answer. This is the A and B required for the 25% gray.
Hmm.
Now again, you have the same A and B value of the paper. Just multiply that with zero point 0.5. You will get A and B for the gray that has to come. This is the actual gray required onto the paper. And at 75% gray box, three colors CMOI gray box, again measure the A and B value of the paper with 0.25. This is a formula. 0.25, you will get the what should be the A and B value of the gray of the 75%. If you are able to achieve this, that means you have achieved the color of the gray.
Right. So it depends on the paper.
Definitely, that's what we are telling. Gray
Yeah.
will always be relative to the paper.
Yeah. Perfect. And
So
Aditya Rane wants, yeah.
here's another question. What is the ideal density as determined by G7?
Neither ISO nor ideal lens define any densities. I mentioned the statement. ISO documents doesn't define you any density. It defines you only what do you call it, LAB values. Do you want to know why?
Yes.
Then I have to. For example, you have okay, you have a paper like this. Okay, you have three paper. I mean, it's the same paper printed in the same machine. And what we are going to do is we are going to use a specific ink, maybe magenta. Okay, so this is X brand. This is Y, and this is Z. I mean, I'm putting three brands of ink. So all the three brand ink, I'm putting a density of 1.45. Well, for visual effect, I'll change this colors also. Okay. Now, do you mean all these three brand inks will have the printed in the same paper, same machine, same density? Do you think the color will look same or the color will be different? Anybody to answer? If you have this paper, we have the same density of different brand of inks on a specific paper, same density, but all the brand ink will have a different tone. It means all the three inks will have a different color. In this case, if you follow the density parameter, you will not be able to achieve the same color. Maybe one job is printed with Seawork ink, and another printer is printing the same job with a DIC ink. Even though they follow the same density, they will end up printing a different images. One side the apple will look red, and other side the apple will look maroon. Now, instead of this, what I'm going to do is I hope I'm taking more time today.
No, it's good.
Now, all this three ink, I got DE of 1.5. Now tell me, I have achieved the color of all the three colors. Correct. I know one brand, I'm able to achieve delta error 1.5 at density 1.45. Another ink, I'm achieving delta error 1.5 at 1.50. And another ink, XY, this is Z. Okay. Third brand. And I'm achieving it able to get the color delta error at 1.55. It means this ink is built to give color at 1.55. This ink is built to give delta error at 1.50, and this is at 1.55. So every ink is different, concentration is different, pigmentation is different, tone is different. You have to identify the right density to get the color. But if you follow density, you don't know what color you arrived. That's why in LAB value, L is density. Follow the L value, automatically you will achieve the A and B value, A and B value. So now, if one job printed in this ink and another printer is printing the same image with this brand of ink, and if as long as he follows 1.5 delta error, trust me, the image will look similar. Now you tell me whether you will follow the density system or a delta error system. In delta error system, the L values again it's density only. So instead of just measuring the thickness, ink film thickness, here you can measure all the three values. L, that is the density, A and B, the color and tone of magenta. Correct? So this is the best way. That is why ISO doesn't recommend you any densities. They always recommend you the LAB values. For internal easy process, printers can identify the nearest delta error, sorry, density, and for a process control parameter, you can use it. But you should not use it like a color management systems, no, like a perfect color.
Right.
If a person is very no, if a person understands managing the print through L value, then he will stop using density. He will forget using density.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the answer? I'm not seeing the
Yes.
chat box, so you
Yeah.
guys have to tell
You
me.
got it.
I don't see the screen here. Okay. Any more questions that I can answer? I can try answering you.
Wait, I have one last question. If nobody has, then it all depends on the hue, like how dirty is your ink, isn't it? Like, I mean, gravier
Yes.
ink, flexo ink, offset ink, or different machines, like different ink, offset ink manufacturers have different, hue error and
Correct.
grayness. So once you
Correct.
specify only LAB or delta E values, then whatever density you are getting is secondary. You have to achieve
Mm.
uh, the delta E first.
Okay. Now there are two ways. If you are doing a calibration for an internal process,
Right.
all we check is the tonality and gray balance. If a printer says this is the ink I buy, I do not want to change, and this is the color achievable on that ink, optimum. Okay. In that case, we take that as a customized LAB value for CMYK RGB because we are not going to match this color with some other print in US or Germany or some other sites. He wants to calibrate for his self improvement. So whatever color he is able to achieve on the paper, we take that as a standard, and for that standard, we adjust the tonality and gray balance. Or in case if it is a dot gain based calibration, we according to the press condition, we go for curve A, B, or C combination for the three colors. Based on that, we set up the curves. You can even do it
Right.
customers available in sets, not a problem.
Okay. Okay.
Because all you mainly measure for the gray balance, one side you're going to measure the dots, other side you're going to measure tonality and gray balance. Correct. So in either way,
Yeah.
we can do it with the customized densities also, not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so Selvan,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So it means that the ink is not sensitive. Paper is more sensitive to the color.
Uh, if I can put it in other terms,
Yes,
actually
sir.
paper is also sensitive,
Yeah,
ink is also sensitive.
the ink, just a sec.
Yes. We can calibrate. G7 is
So if the ink
not
supplier
directly.
changes, you can still
Yes.
have the process under control. But once the
Yes.
paper changes, the color is bound to change.
Whether you change the paper or you change the ink or you change the printing units, your calibration will has to be done redone. You have to do a recalibration.
In case of,
If it's in case if a printer has a six color machine, first time when he calibrated, he used the first unit for black, and later for some reason he's going to use the black in last unit. That means he has recalibration for the black. Change the paper or ink or printing unit, they have to do a recalibration.
okay.
Because we are calibrating means we are standardizing. We are standardizing for this paper, this ink on this unit. If that changes, everything will change. Standardizing is fixing it.
Yeah, correct. So what that means you're saying that standardization is an integral part, so that has to be there. That's an important part.
Yes, ma'am.
But even so, if the amount of ink changes, then uh, then you're trying to match it with the delta E.
Definitely. And you see, when you're going to change the amount of ink, when you increase the density or decrease the density, automatically that has a direct influence on the dot size. When you have an influence on the dot size, your three color gray or a single color black, the tone that you have, tonality, 0 to 100% scale, automatically you will see the influence in that. And automatically the gray balance will change. You have to maintain the parameters very precisely on the machine, or else even any fluctuations can change your colors.
Mhm. Okay. Right. So whatever is this curve, the NPDC curve which you get, it will be fixed for a given set of parameters.
Exactly. Not only for even for a dot gain calibration, it is that. It is fixed for a specific ink, paper, and unit combination. Calibrations are always ink plus paper plus specific unit. Or I should say paper plus ink, that is cyan, plus in which unit the cyan is used. The calibration is applicable only for this three combination. Any of this combination changes, you have to change it.
But then if we are trying to control the delta color, the delta E, then why should it matter whether, if I use an X company ink or a Y company ink or a Z company? Eventually, if I'm going to match only the delta.
Madam, now, for example, you calibrated for this, okay?
Hmm.
You calibrated your machine for this density, sorry, uh, this specific density. Now, when suddenly printer changes ink to this brand, where the density has gone up, when the density is going up, automatically, I told you, your dot size will also change. When the dot size is going to change, your tonality, that whatever the scale you had, this scale will also have an impact. Three color gray. When this is going to have an impact, automatically you will have an impact on the this gray. This when the dot size is going to increase, that is going to affect the dot gain in the CMOI scale. And if there's a dot gain is going to fluctuate, automatically it is going to change the color of the gray also. It's all interdependent. The tone on based on that tone, what is the color of the gray? If there is a gain in magenta by 5%, this it becomes darker. At the same time, this becomes like the gray becomes like this. So we have to remove that excess dot of magenta through the CTP, and we have to bring it like this, neutral gray. We have to remove this color cast and bring it like this.
Mhm. Okay.
It's actually not so easy,
Hmm.
uh, easy process, but because it's like working without any tolerance. It's so tight tolerance that printers should. It will take some time for printers to work under
Work,
such tight conditions.
work under such conditions, right?
Because once they start working under this kind of conditions, that
Mhm.
means all their parameters will be within the range, within the control. They even usually what happens if it's ink supplier goes to a printer and says, "I bought a new ink. It is cheaper. It has more gloss, dry and all." Now the G7 printer will say, "Boss, please don't disturb me. It is already calibrated to G7. I cannot go through the entire process again. So let it go as it is." If it is not there, printer will say, "Oh, it's 100 rupees cheaper. Please send me 2 kilos tomorrow." That process will stop.
Hmm.
Anything on the press room, the printers will not change. It means they will fix it. They will not change the font. They will not change the raw. They will monitor the raw water condition. They will check the blanket conditions. They will check the hardness of the rollers, hardness of the blanket, how much they tight to the blanket. They will check all these parameters while doing the jobs. That means the process control will be in place in all this environment. Those printer who cannot have a process control, they should not even do a dot gain calibration.
Mhm. Okay.
So even if we keep the same ink manufacturer, but they have done some changes at their ink formula, we again have to
Mm,
calibrate the entire process.
exactly. Yes. You can evaluate whether it is within the
Right.
range or not. If it is not within the range, you can see when these days the softwares are so updated. Now I have done a calibration for a DC Eco inks. It is running fine. Suddenly I bought a DIC ink. I can print with a DIC ink, match the delta error. Now my grays will go out. I can measure and I can correct my existing curve to get the gray balance. That is also possible.
Correct. Okay.
But they have to do it. Or else they'll not get it. See, it is just a
Hmm.
measurement, export and correcting the value. It doesn't take much time.
Correct. 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 We have a question from Prajakta. So I'll read it out. So what are the
Yes.
target dot gains with tolerances as per ISO 12647-2 for CMYK to be achieved during fingerprinting run for ECG?
So this is the same thing. You can have curve A or B for the cyan, magenta, yellow. For black, we use B. For CMY, we use A and B, A or B. For black, we use B or C based on the substrate, ink, and press conditions. And for OGV, we go for either B. B is also fine. I think we can stick with B.
Yeah.
Their only concern is ECG now.
Yes. Prajakta, have you got your answer? Okay. Yeah, I think we don't have any questions here. So over to you, Chaitanya, if you want to
Sure, ma'am.
proceed further.
Are there any more questions from faculty or students? So let us continue our event.
So that's it.
Sir, can you stop presenting the slide?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, meanwhile, if any faculty member want to give the feedback for the entire session, and of course today's session, you are more than welcome. Joshi sir, we can start with you.
Yes, it was a very nice presentation and a good description about the importance of G7. And he has given a clarity on why there is a need for G7 calibration when we talk about the gray reproduction. We had previous methodology like matching to the FOGRA standards only with the help of color and dot, but here we are talking about focus on directly the color and achieving the grays and the importance of the substrate. And one beautiful example which he has given about the variation in the densities, how it is impacting the gray reproduction, and that was really a nice example. And I think this is the example which he always stresses on uh, G7 expert training program also. We have gone through that, and that is really nice example, and which makes it very simple. And the one thing which I liked about him was uh, the way he has explained the concept. I know there is a lot to go in G7, but at least to begin with, to all the students, uh, making them understand in a very simple language, that is most important. And this is what he has done in today's session. Very nice work, Selvan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, Joshi madam.
Hello, Shrikala, hello.
Yeah, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, actually, you can continue with the further this thing
Okay,
because
okay.
sir has already given a very nice feedback.
Right, right. No, I'm just
Just
talking
talking
like
with the
the
colors.
entire color week for the.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was more than one more want actually. It was a very good spectrum to cover all the aspects of the subject was there, and the speakers were really experts in the very field of their working, and they did all they took all the efforts to simplify to reach out to the students to make the concepts of our students clear. And it's not just students who enjoyed the sessions, but I'm sure all of us as a faculty members we
Yeah.
enjoyed the sessions. And more than that, the students worked as a team. That was a great part of it. They it you know For all the sessions, a different moderator was there, a reporting team was there, the flyers were made, the students were informed. So all the systematic work, so the teamwork, hats off to all the teamwork, and obviously congratulations to Kala ma'am for handling all the tasks meticulously for the week, and before that the planning at least for the 15 days must have been there. So yes, lot of learning for organizing the event, and lot of learning in terms of technical concepts for the color. So this
Yes.
has been a colorful week, and now we have a colorful 9 days to
Yeah.
come. So October seems to be a colorful month.
Yes.
So great job done, and congratulations all the color week team. Thank you.
Okay. So I would request Mahajan ma'am as well to please, give her feedback, even though she did listen. By the way, students, she did listen to all the talks in the evening when she got time. So you don't feel bad, madam nahi the वगैरह ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. So yeah, Madhura ma'am. you want
Yeah,
to- Yeah.
yeah, right. Thank you, Selvan. I think you've really covered an important topic. It was the most awaited topic since many months. We were waiting to listen to you. And thank you for sharing this. What can we say? A very hot topic today in the industry. And I think if the students are knowing these things, at least some of these things while they are in their college days. I think maybe eventually they will gear up to its future requirements as the students. And they will know that these are the requirements from the industry. So at least these various parameters such as the color, the density, the dot gain, or the gray values or the gray balance. At least some of these things, if they are knowing to some extent, may slightly, what can you say? They can increase their reading in these areas. They can increase. They would like to explore more on these things because ultimately this is what they are going to need it when they enter into the industry. So I think you gave a fantastic overview of the topic today, stating how how it is difficult or how what are the limitations of the ISO 12647-2 process control methods, and then how controlling dot gain and then trying to achieve color on the press is more difficult, or you may not reach to the exact color. And then whereas while working with a G7 methodology, how even you are trying to control a color via its gray values. Okay, so students, mostly the second year students, may not be aware of what is gray. So gray is a combination of cyan, magenta, and yellow inks. So whatever, when you mix these colors, the color which you get is a gray, and then how when you mix it in various percentages, its value will change. So if you have higher percentages of cyan, magenta, and yellow, you will get a darker gray. Then you have a middle tone gray, or you have a highlight gray. So I think very beautifully explained, as Joshi sir also mentioned, that very beautifully explained these concepts. For those who know these concepts, yeah, it is easier for them to understand. For those who don't know or didn't know about it, will definitely be inclined to learn more on these concepts. So I think this is about today's session. So thank you, Selvan. You are a very busy person, but you actually accepted our invitation, and you spoke about this the most wanted topic today in the industry with our students. So thanks. And now about the color week, I think the last 6 days, as Joshi ma'am said, were really colorful. Of course, I could not be part of a few of the sessions. I was busy with some university work, and then I had to be there. But then some of the sessions I did try to, put it in, listen, at least listen to what was happening for that 1 hour. But I couldn't focus. But then later, Shubham sir shared the presentation with me, and so I could see them late in the night. But I think it was wonderful, as Joshi ma'am said, wonderful teamwork exhibited by third year students. And our objective itself was that it should be a students' event. If we can do print era, if we can do so many other things, you can also organize things online. And I think the TE students have proved in these past 6 days that how systematically they could organize these webinars, talk to speakers. Maybe initial hunting was done by Shrikala ma'am, and then the follow up, then pursuing matters with the speakers, with the designers, with their team members. All this was so systematically organized, and I could see it. I mean, I could feel it that yes, things are going in the right manner. I mean, though I was not at all a part of it directly. Whatever a week ago Shrikala ma'am discussed with me, and then she, I mean, then she was telling me, like, I'm not doing much of the work. It's been shared entirely by the students. So I think I really wish to congratulate all the third year students who have been in this organizing team. And I hope that you learned a lot, and you're not going to stop here. Of course, you have many more such things to do, be it online, be it offline. Okay, so it's a job that you are supposed to do. So I think thanks to all the speakers who attended, Dr. Ganga Khedkar sir, or we had Mr. Let me just refer to the names because I may miss out somebody. So we had Dr. Narendra Ganga Khedkar sir, then we had Mr. Ravi from ESCO, we had Mr. Das Damodaran from FAR Technologies, then we had Mr. Vishnu Kamat from AGS Technologies, Rishikesh Rajguru, again our alumni yesterday on, and I could attend his whole session. So he spoke about brand identity. And today, of course, Selvan, our alumni, who spoke about .gain versus G7, or PVI versus G7. So I think great, fantastic week, fantastic learning, lot to learn. Yesterday, I myself learned so many things. Today, I learned so many things, and I hope the other students who are a part of this have learned a lot. So thank you, Shrikala, for arranging this, or maybe having this idea in your mind. And over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's it from me. I mean, I'm glad that students could take up this challenge, and they did a fantastic job. I just, as you rightly said, I just saw the first two sessions PPTs. After that, everything was in their code. So I hope now it is their, duty to come up with the new topics and just asking us for, madam, we want this topic and we have selected these many speakers. Do you have a contact for them? And then we can definitely guide them. So this was just a start.
Shikala
I
ma'am,
hope, yes, ma'am.
is any student willing to give the feedback? If we
Yeah,
can
that's
ask
what I was
them.
coming to. Yeah, that was my next point. So if any SCTV students who are here, if you want to say about the total event or your experience of attending the entire event, you can unmute yourself and talk. Anyone?
Yes, ma'am. Myself Gargisha.
Yes, Gargi.
First, I would like to thank our today's speaker, Mr. K. Selvan, sir, for spending his valuable time with us and giving us information on dot gain versus G7. It was an immense pleasure for having you here, sir. Then further, I would like to thank Ria for beautifully introducing the speaker. Then I thank our respected HOD, Mrs. Madhura Mahajan ma'am and Kanade ma'am for conducting this wonderful session. Then I would like to thank our coordinators who took great efforts and with all their enthusiasm successfully conducted this session. Omkar Kokate, Akshay Ingre, Shivam Javalkar, Rugved Upadhyay, Chaitanya Kaushal and Atharva Kulkarni. A special thanks to Subhangi Chavan and Vijay Jadhav for designing the posters for all the 6 days of the Color Week. Further, I would like to thank Kharat sir for giving us the lecture link and also recording all the sessions for further use. I would now also thank the feedback and the quiz team, Aditya Huge, Ajay Bankar and Pranali Kataria. And also thanks in advance for today's quiz which will be conducted soon after the session. Now, finally, I would thank the report team for giving the reports submitted for each session. That is Riya Pallade, myself Gargi Shah, Pranit Thube, and Pratik Dange. A special thanks to our today's mentor, Chaitanya Kaushal, for this great session conducted. The feedback form will be soon given in the comments section, and the quiz will be sent to the WhatsApp of the respective groups. Thus, congratulations to all and cheers to a great and successful Color Week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gargi. Tarakki, you were attending the entire session, I hope. Sharad was there for all the 6 days. So, Sharad, how was your experience of the Color Week?
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me a chance to speak. It was a great experience, ma'am. We got to learn many things from the entire color week. In third year, we have two subjects about color. So we have learned all about basics. But due to this color week, we got to learn very different and new things. Like yesterday session was a great, and today is also very great about the G7 and the dot gain and color all the all the things. So thank you, ma'am, for arranging such a great session for us.
Right, not a problem. And I would ask third year student, maybe who? Akshay, you are the organizer, so that's okay. You are enjoyed anyway. Those, yeah. I think, ma'am, that's it. Because
Any
all
second year student wants to say, maybe they may not have followed everything, but
yeah,
nonetheless, if they want to share anything.
we have Om Gole. Om was here since
Deepashri
day
is
one.
there, I think. Deepashri is there and Vishal Kulkarni is there. Deepashri?
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, please give your feedback.
It was nice session. I attended 4 days out of 6 days, and we learned about G7 today. Also, on the first day we learned about colors, and I like the session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Deepashri. Vishal, are you there? Vishal Kulkarni.
I think he's not there.
Not there. Om Ghole, the last. Yeah.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
want to share your feedback?
It was a new thing to learn from. Actually, we are from AC. The entire new topics were covered, so it was a great work from all. Thank you.
Good. I hope you are not afraid of color, because many things are unknown to you, and thinking that you will be thinking, oh God, हे काय शिकतोय आपण. So don't be afraid. It is very interesting topic, especially for second year students, I would like to say. So it is important that you start loving the color management stuff, so that it will help you in your career if you want to go, in a good industry, and if you want to prove your place. Then these additional knowledges like color management and importance of color and how to achieve it, then it will really help you. So if you start learning those things from the start, you can build your career very strong if your foundation is strong. So please take all these lectures seriously, because it will help you to build your shape up your career, because that is cherry on the tops. The cake we all have, but the more decorative cake is the more appealing one. So the seminars are nothing but the cherries on the top of the decoration of your cake. So that's it from me. And Chaitanya, over to you.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. So, as you all of know, that today is the last event. Today is the last year. Let me just present the screen. So the things we have learned from D1, the fundamentals of color science by Dr. Narendra Ghandekar sir. He has shared his idea. Day two, Day two, a wonderful presentation on transformation of color by Mr. Ravi Vaidyanathan sir. On day three, we understood the basics of color management and process standardization by Mr. Das Damodaran sir. And day four, we understood the basic instruments used in color measurement by Mr. Vishnu Kumar sir. Day 5, Mr. Rishikesh Rajguru shared his knowledge and work skills about brand identity and importance of color in FMGC. And today, Mr. Panthala Selvan sir has shared his specialized knowledge about the color, gamut, and G7, sorry, G7 and NPDC. I will now thanks the team of the Color Week, our staff coordinator Shikara Kanade ma'am, the moderators, the designers, the feedback form team, the quiz team, the report team, and special thanks to Shubham Kharat sir for providing us the link and recording session. Thank you, thank you everyone.
Okay, thank you. And with this, the color week is over, and we all shall meet on Monday with our regular timetable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you all the viewers.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Shubham sir, if you want to stop recording.